Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas here with Jared Shive. What is your title at Stark Parks, Jared?
I'm a marketing specialist, but I certainly try to know a little bit about a lot of things so I can go out and talk to the people about all the things that Stark Parks might be involved in.
And that is a marketing specialist for you. Very good. Yes, he's from Stark Parks. And so if we are going to start and talk about all the things with Stark Parks, let's start with the fact that it gets confusing, all the parks that we have in the area. We have some city parks. We have Stark Parks. We've got sometimes in the township, they have their own parks. So let us know, how do you know one park from another?
Well, definitely. You've identified something that I always like to begin any talk that I do with, and that is, what is Stark Parks and how does it fit into this bigger picture? So what Stark Parks specializes in is what we call passive recreation. So activities that you'll see in passive recreation might include boating, fishing, canoeing, kayaking, hiking, biking, bird watching, more passive leisure activities. And what you'll see in a lot of the township and city and village parks are active recreation, where they have the ball fields or the sports leagues. And so what we try to do is not really replicate that. We try to complement that. And sometimes that's in a physical way where we can connect a trail through numerous city parks or to a destination park that has 3 or 4 baseball fields or tennis courts. And in a programmatic way, we might be able to partner with them and bring out some live wildlife, or some of our nature programs can be held at those locations as well.
I think one of the amazing things, and we keep hammering on it here on our community, is Ohio, Northeast Ohio, Stark County, and the surrounding counties have it all, don't we? As far as terrain, as far as the outdoor activities, it's amazing what you'll find here.
Yeah, we really do. You think of Stark County being, pretty flat on some of the trails, but there are a few parks that maybe we'll talk about here today, and that we can hopefully urge visitors to go to and introduce them to some of the inclines in Stark County that'll get your heart going.
Well, we have so much to talk about, but before we move on, let's talk about the trails themselves that you just brought up. There's a group of trails that are beginning to be connected, and I know a lot of folks are seeing them spring up around their homes or nearby. It's pretty great. Tell us a little bit about what's happening there.
Yeah, so Stark Parks, so we kind of have hung our hat on the trail system over the last 2 decades. That's kind of what has put us on the in the public eye and is really popular. So what we try to do in each community is connect those important places, whether it's shopping or a destination or maybe a tourist venue or other parks like I mentioned, and make it so it's a recreation resource, but also it's maybe an alternative transportation resource as well. So a few examples in the Stark County area, especially in the Canton, Plain Township, and North Canton area over the last few years, the Hoover Trail and the Middle Branch Trail. So if you know where Walsh University and Washington Square are, that's the Hoover Trail area. And then if you are just a little bit down the street and you know where Rice's Nursery or Gervasi Winery are, that is the Middle Branch Trail. So we've worked with a lot of different private businesses, other public agencies, other parks, and we made this trail system happen. Quite a few miles to explore, and it's really, there's so many people that are around that area that you probably don't even have to put your bike on the back of your car. For a lot of people, you can roll right out your driveway and down the street, and you're there. So that's a great example of how we work together, utilize resources that already exist, and just really connect the community and its people.
They are so nice, and they're kept up so well, and we all know what weather is like here. How in the world do you keep them in such good condition?
Well, we've learned some lessons over the years with how we build the trails, and we try to use a crushed limestone surface anytime that we can. That's pretty durable for biking, hiking, and it doesn't tend to break down too much unless we get a really hard rainstorm. There's a few spots that we might have erosion issues or washout. So occasionally we'll use an asphalt area, maybe 100 yards or a quarter mile in the low areas that maybe are flood prone or that tend to wash out. But we've just kind of perfected the art of the layers, and we've liked the cost of that too, because it's quite a bit cheaper, and the upkeep of that is quite a bit cheaper for the taxpayers as well.
Towpath Trail goes with which? Is that with the park system or is that another?
It is. The towpath is unique, 25 miles in Stark County that Stark Parks manages. And, of course, that connects to Tuscarawas County and up through Summit and the Cuyahoga Valley and into Cleveland Metro Parks. So that's kind of the trail that showed off what trails could be in the Stark County area back in the late 90s. And that's what I think really started to create that buzz for parks and trails in Stark County.
It's so cool even to be driving in downtown. I'm even thinking in the inner city, and there's a bike path suddenly. Is that something that you worked out with the city? What's the relationship between all of these? Do you work together?
Yeah, luckily we sit on a lot of different committees and transportation groups, and we can have these conversations, and sometimes we can leverage funds and apply for grants together. So they might look at our master trail map of all the things that we want to do and say, we think we can help connect this via a on-road bike lane. And so that's usually just how those conversations start. We just, try to always keep being around the table and being a player in all those important kind of fund designations and master plans and studies. And, it's becoming a point where we can usually count on being asked, or at least in the discussion.
At the table.
That's right.
Pretty exciting. We're speaking with Jared Shive. He's with Stark Parks. We're going to get into Exploration Gateway because we're really excited about that. But before we move on, talking about biking and these trails, I'm always blown away by what the middle schoolers with Tom Todd ideas come up with. And one of the things was the Bike Smart program, which you're participating in. Tell us a little bit about that.
The Bike Smart was just a really fun thing to work on. And so we launched that in the summer of 2015. And basically, a few kids at their summer camp came up with an idea that more residents in the community needed access to bikes. And, of course, they turned to the library when you think of loanable free materials. And the library got Stark Parks involved and Canton Parks and Recreation, and we got together and made it all happen. And it really took off. Thousands of rides were happening on those bikes from really June to the kind of mid-fall. And I think just under 1,000 different riders that took those bikes out, and all kinds of reasons. People that are going to fill a prescription or file paperwork or trying to search for a job, and maybe they used to have to walk 20, 30 blocks, and this shortened their commute in half and probably then some. Some people that maybe their kids had a bike, they didn't. Now they can all ride together. So it was just a great story. There were 6 hubs all over Stark County and a few in Stark Parks along our trails. So we're looking forward to seeing them out again this summer.
It's just amazing. And you're talking about very practical things like getting a prescription or going to a job interview. I'm just thinking that if you're a family visiting Stark County and you think, what a nice day, it'd be great to go for a bike ride, tourists can step into a library and get some bikes, right?
Right. And maybe that's the next phase of this project. So we have 6 hubs at pretty public places. Maybe we'll start to see them pop up around maybe a university or a tourist attraction or a hospital. So that would be a great next step for the community too.
And you mentioned the universities. Let's talk about the relationship you've got with the universities, and you're doing some trails around them as well.
Right, both physical in terms of trails nearby. University of Mount Union, we're working on the really popular Iron Horse Trail that's just south of Alliance, but over the late last fall, I think it was limestone, and now it's just the conversation topic for all Alliance residents. So we're working on getting that over State Street through the Mount Union campus. Malone, we're working again with the university and with Canton City Parks for the Pioneer Trail that will connect through Malone, not too far from the West Branch Trail over off of Fulton in the city parks, and not too far from the Middle Branch Trail as well. And also Stark State and Kent State Stark, we have a trail that we're hoping to connect from Dressler over to Frank and in the next year or so too.
I should know this before I ask it, but what kind of safety measures do you need to take? Do you work with safety departments at all? Do people take these trails at their own risk as far as biking, walking, and those kinds of things?
Yeah, from the user standpoint, of course, we always recommend wear a helmet, stay to the right, announce yourself when you're passing. Pets are welcome on all of our trails, but they need to be on a leash. You need to pick up after them. Just the basics, if you're going to take a break, make sure you're to the side of the trail. Don't block the trail. From more of a community standpoint, we do work with all of our law enforcement and some of the engineers to go over crossings if there's a way that we can have a light there, or if there's anything special that we need, because there are some busy roads that sometimes we do have to cross over, or sometimes under, which every once in a while we're blessed with good timing and a construction project that we can maybe tunnel under an area, or get a bridge over a major highway that would be really tough to get around.
That's really cool. Are you far enough along on some of those that you would be allowed to announce where some of those tunnels are going to be?
Well, I think the one that is upcoming and that we've been talking about for a little while is on the Hoover and Middle Branch Trail connector on Market Avenue. There will be a tunnel that goes under Market, just a little bit north of where Maple and Easton crosses Market, and that will be a much safer alternative than crossing at grade with the current route.
Jared Shive is with Stark Parks. Got to ask a little bit about your background. How did you end up here? Can you help us connect those dots?
Yeah, this is an interesting story. I was looking for a second internship. I went to Mount Union College at that time, and I went through a career fair in the fall of my senior year, and I really had this advertising agency kind of focused in on, and I thought I had a pretty good resume, pretty good experience, and I went up to them and tried to sell myself, and it was pretty ho-hum, and walked away kind of dejected, like, wow, that I was really keyed in on that. And while I was walking away with my head down, there was a representative from Stark Parks there, and he said, "You ever think about working for the parks?" And I said, "No." "Do I have to wear rubber boots and a hat or what?" So we scheduled an interview for an internship. That would have been my last semester in college. I almost canceled it. I'm like, I don't know. This just isn't for me. And well, here I am 11 years later.
Oh, man. Yeah. What sold you?
I think it was, I talk to a lot of college students and go to career fairs occasionally. And I think I just had never considered government work or nonprofit work. And maybe I didn't know that you could really believe in something, believe in a product as a community resource as a product as much as I have, or I found out I could. So I think that was probably what sold me after a little while.
But you're surely not recommending to students looking for jobs that they act completely apathetic when they're approached by somebody say, "Do you ever think of working here?"
No.
It worked for you, however.
It did. It caught me by surprise, but it certainly worked out great.
Well, and you were honest, too. And you say that you've become passionate about it. What do you like most about what you do now?
Definitely when I feel when I do a lot of outreach events and speaking events, and when I can go out there and really help someone enjoy the parks or teach them how to enjoy the parks, just give them, maybe sometimes that's a map or a calendar, and just talk them through, okay, where is this, or how do I get to it? Because there's a lot of intimidation just getting to these areas, and then maybe thinking of actually getting in a kayak or something like that is really intimidating too. So when I can go out there and sell that and really feel like they have the information and they're going to move on it, I think that's great. And of course, when I go out and visit the parks, whether it's for my own personal time or I'm doing something for the parks and I just happen to be at that site, and when you see those people, or maybe I'm capturing that on a video or a photo shoot or something, then that's when you really know that what you're doing is successful.
Yeah, making a difference. It's awesome. Jared Shive is with Stark Parks. We're going to find out a lot about what's going on and more about Information Gateway. Stay with us. You're listening to Our Community.